So ladies and gentlemen, guess where we are? We're in beautiful Sedona country. And I'm here with my main man Ryan. Ernest is in the back, they're all talking. And we're just hanging out, having a good time.
For sure.
Especially last night when he and I kept challenging each other. Okay, who's gonna drink more?
I think I won though.
Yeah, I think you did, because I was the one who ended up with a hangover. So, but, you know, we were talking about the Kriya Yoga and the relation to astrology. I wanted to actually capture that on the video.
Yeah.
So, and I know since you are deep into it, obviously you're the person to talk to, so how is the relation of Kriya Yoga with Jyotish?
Well, the main idea is that when you're doing the Kriya practices, which is in a sense circulating life force through your spine,
Yeah.
and Sri Krishna would say that each chakra is related to a zodiac sign. And so that's where obviously where your karma is stored. That's what you see in the birth chart.
Yeah.
So when you go through and you do one of these techniques properly, it's like circulating the sun around the zodiac, which is equivalent to 1 year of healthy disease-free living. So if you do 12 of them and you do them well, then the idea is that as you go through this whole process, the karmas get lessened and looser and burned up, because then you're not having to live out the full 1,000,000 years that you need to get rid of it. Right.
I see.
So that's really the main idea behind it, but it's the fact that the zodiac is reflected in the chakras and along the spine. Right. So
I mean, give us like an example as to what zodiac, like, because we have 12 zodiac signs, and we only have 7 chakras. So how is that scenario?
Each chakra is related to 2 signs.
Okay.
So you've got
I see.
Right. So you've got Capricorn and Aquarius, which is the first chakra, which is ruled over by Saturn, and then Pisces and Sagittarius, the second chakra, Aries and Scorpio, the third chakra, Libra and Taurus, the fourth chakra, Gemini and Virgo, the fifth chakra, and then you get to the sixth chakra, which is Cancer and Leo. And so the 7th chakra is supposed to be beyond karma, so that's why you don't have one for the 7th chakra. So when you've got planets in your chart in those areas, and that means that whatever problems, whatever good things are reflected actually in your astral body and the chakras there.
Okay, so but we're talking about zodiac, but then it's the positions of the planets,
right,
that show us the actual karma. So does that mean like Saturn in Cancer is sitting right there on your head then?
Yeah, metaphorically it'd be, you don't want Saturn necessarily in your spiritual eye. You want it in your first chakra, because that deals with survival issues. That deals with like getting your basic needs met, which is where Saturn excels, right? But who's exalted here in Cancer but Jupiter?
Yeah.
Which is the guru, the planet of wisdom, right? And so if you start thinking about how the exaltations work out and where they're exalted in the chakras, like Saturn's the one that people get tripped up on.
Yeah.
Because that's your heart chakra. But think about it. Saturn's about suffering and pain and poverty and people who don't have enough.
Yeah.
So if you have Saturn exalted in your heart, then you can relate to and care.
Because that's where Libra is. Okay.
Right, exactly. Libra and Taurus.
Taurus.
In the heart. Yeah. I mean, it can get pretty interesting. But
wow. So the exalted Saturn will make you more compassionate towards other people suffering?
It's the idea, because the stronger Saturn is, you understand the suffering.
Okay.
Right? Because when Saturn's good, you can bear the burdens. Like, life is full of burdens.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how spiritual you are, doesn't matter how good or bad you are, you're going to suffer one way or the other. And once you can make peace with Saturn, it becomes exalted, then you're able to love God or divine consciousness or whatever you want as it is. You're not going to say, I want you to come at me in a blaze of light.
Yeah.
You're going to say, you know what? There's people suffering in the world. That too is God. I love you. You're going to say, this is my friend, so I love you too. You see with equal vision, which is what yoga is all about, equanimity and seeing everything with equal vision, not having attachments and aversions, right? So Saturn's pretty interesting when you think about the heart.
And where's the Aries sign? It's at the very bottom then?
Well, you got Capricorn and Aquarius at the very bottom.
Very bottom.
Yep. And then Sagittarius.
The solar plex chakra, I think, is
the navel would be the third chakra, which is Aries. And
so
Scorpio.
Saturn's debilitated in Aries, so that means it's sitting right there. What is that?
Well, when you got Saturn in Aries, what is Aries all about? Aries in, for example, Scorpio is about using your vitality, your energy, taking a proper initiative. And when you do that, and you've got Saturn there, oftentimes you question yourself too much, or you delay. You're not able to kind of get into your instinctual nature. Mm-hmm. So that's why Saturn doesn't work well in the third chakra. right? But the sun does, because that's your vitality, that's your inspiration, that's what you charge for with your courage, you know, all Martian types of things. So, you know, it's pretty interesting. You could write a whole book on that if you got into it.
No, yeah. But taking this concept and looking at someone's chart, then how are you relating the aspect of Kriya with the astrology and just by look?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's hard because being someone who practices Kriya yoga and interested in meditation and being an astrologer, I have a hard time with that. Because when it comes to life and spirituality, you want to just try to live your best.
Yeah.
And you're going to suffer and you're going to have good and bad things happen. But again, it's trying to be easy with it. And with astrology, what do people want? They always want everything to work out perfectly all the time.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not accurate. So the idea with Kriya is that you start to work on yourself internally, and you don't even have to look at the chart, because you will start to know yourself and kind of figure out where your little weaknesses are. So I might say you've got Saturn debilitated in Aries, right? But they might just have an experience like that, and they won't need an astrologer to tell them. But once you become aware of it, whether an astrologer tells you, whether you figure it out yourself because you become aware of it internally, you work through it. So the breathing processes, the lifestyle that Kriya Yoga kind of wants you to get involved with is all about accepting the difficulties, moving through them, and not relying on, you know, stars so much. You know, you honor them because they're a part of you, but you're trying to free yourself from them.
Yeah, okay, so here's the thing then, because the whole process of Kriya, you guys are free from them, but then you are born with that debilitated sun or debilitated Saturn.
Yeah.
So even if you clean that process, that planet is still sitting there.
Well, but it affects you less. That's the issue.
It affects you less.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, for example, one of the reasons I got involved in meditation is because I was angry, I was anxious, and I was depressed. And I can still do that every now and then. But when it happens, since I've been at this for a while, I don't identify with it. Meaning, like, when I get anxious, I just know my body's getting anxious. And it's just part of the life. When I get depressed, I just know that's something passing. I don't end up on the couch, you know, for days, you know, thinking the world is terrible. So the idea with the whole Kriya is that it frees you from it, and you still have the issues or the tendencies there, but it's just like if you got a tendency towards like heart disease or cancer, like if your family's got it. Well, if your family's got it, then you might want to exercise and eat right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what Kriya is doing, is it's kind of putting you in a situation where these things are less likely to cause you significant issues, right? And if they do cause you issues, you've got a clear mindset to be able to deal with them, right? So that's the tricky thing about all this spirituality is everyone, they want to get into it because they think it's going to, they will then escape from every problem.
Yeah,
and you won't. Life is like this.
So then, how does one sell Kriya to a common man, knowing that, well, your problems are still going to be there, but then what's the...
You can't, and that's why, you know, I was in charge of a meditation center in Asheville for about 1.5 years, and for 10 years I was studying with Mr. Davis, and I was like, that would be great to do a meditation center. And I finally got there, and I was looking around, and I thought, I cannot say what is true because no one wants to hear that. So no one hardly ever came to our meditation center because I'm just trying to talk about these things, and people want stuff sold to them. They want to be entertained. So the real Kriya, you're probably not going to find in a situation where there's hundreds of people really.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's because it's hard.
Because they feel like they're coming to your center, that means they're going to be cured of all the things, and they will go back as like a pure person, nothing will affect them.
Right. They'll be less affected. I mean, like one fellow who also became a Kriya minister that I knew, he was a Mormon. And his wife was totally against him doing this because he's a Mormon. Yeah. But finally she realized that by him practicing more meditation and spirituality, getting more involved in it that way, that he was less angry. He was less, you know, had less difficulty with certain things in his life. He still had them, but he became more conscious, which means he didn't get triggered by things. And that's what you find, you know, the more you practice Kriya Yoga or any kind of spirituality is you are just less triggered by things. If you want to get angry, you can still get angry, right? But it's not because you've lost your mind and you can't.
So let's say if Mars is in, like, for somebody in Leo or Aries, they have that anger, they have that burst. So once they do this process and Mars calms down, does that mean that person will lose their willpower and strength to be motivated? Because when it's in fire, So how will that energy then transform?
It will be more, what's the word? They will use it more appropriately. Like, there are people who just try to force things all the time.
Yeah.
And sure, they get things done, but are they really getting things done that need to get done? And there are people that are highly motivated, and they've got strong Pitta or, Mars and Leo or whatever it might be, and when it's time for them to use that Mars, they know how to use it. Right? So that's really the issue, is when you're learning about Kriya Yoga, and if you try to associate with astrology, all you're doing is embodying the highest aspects of the planets. It's like Mars, you need Mars. If someone comes at you with a club, I'm going to grab that club over there and try to stop them. Not because I'm angry, but because that's what Mars would do.
Mars would do, yeah.
Or with Saturn, sometimes you have to grieve. Sometimes you have to experience those things because that's a part of life. And with Mercury, having fun, with your friends or traveling, whatever it might be, you do all these types of things not because you're trying to fulfill yourself, just because it's the planets expressing in their most conscious fashion. And that's what we're meant to do here. I mean, we're here for a reason.
So like you were telling me about the Libra and the Taurus chakra.
Yeah.
We, let's say, get into relationships.
Mm-hmm.
We have professional relationships. And if that relationship is good, does that mean somehow it's also cleaning out that chakra because you're activating that chakra by being involved with the activities of that chakra? Does that work like that or no? Like you're activating your chakra by getting married.
No, that's true. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
You're just going through your karmas.
Yeah.
Right. And so you can do it like you just described.
Yeah.
By having kids or getting married, whatever it might be, and that's fine. Or you can go through inner processes that help you kind of work through these things, and you don't necessarily need to do them. Doesn't mean you don't.
Yeah.
But it's no longer something that you have to do out of a compulsion.
Okay.
Like I've got friends that they are having relationship problems, and why did they have babies? Because they thought it would solve their relationship problem.
Right, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. And so that's you're doing it then not out of this is the best thing for us to do consciously. You're doing it because you're thinking it's going to fix a problem that you just don't want to attend to. Right? So the more that you embody the planets yourself in their highest capacity, the more holistic of a person you become. And in a sense, you're practicing Kriya Yoga, because that's what it's about, living in a way where you're as conscious as you can be.
Now, Yogananda is one of the biggest adversaries of this. But what I know that he didn't really actually believe in astrology compared to Sri Yukteswar.
Right.
So did he follow the same, this is supposed to clean out your planet? I mean, what?
He might not have looked at it that way. I mean, he did have that chapter in Autobiography of Yogi. But Mr. Davis told me, and he told me that when he would see Yogananda would still wear the astrological jewelry.
Yeah, the jewelry,
the bangles, and so on. So what Yogananda didn't want people to do was to become dependent on astrology. But if it allowed them to maybe learn a little bit more about themselves, he was fine with it. Because he would make statements like, predict my worst period, and I'm still going to be successful. Right, and that's because what he was trying to teach a person was that
you can overcome those.
Yeah, it's going to be rainy, but you can still go for a run if you want. It's just raining.
So that means it's not predestined, like they sell astrology to be. Well, no, if your accident is there.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I don't think it is. I think what it is the chart is showing you where your weaknesses and your strengths are. Yeah. And just like if you're an alcoholic, maybe you don't want to go into a bar. Right? And so it's not that you're predestined that every time you walk into a bar. That's going to happen. It's just don't do that.
Because especially in that period, you will go and start drinking again.
Exactly. Yeah. So the whole point is not to say astrology is nothing. The point is just to say that it is a tool to help guide you. But at the end of the day, you still have to live your life. Like I was talking to Ernst on the way up here, and he was saying that people come to astrologers because they want to know that the next step they're going to take is the right one. Yeah. They want to be 100% sure. But God doesn't tell you that until you actually take the step. You'll never know for sure until you actually take the step. Yeah. So it's really about, I think, what's the word? Trends. What's the trend? Am I likely to succeed here? Well, let's see. Am I not likely to succeed here? Well, I might have to work harder at it. And with Kriya and meditation, you start to understand your own inner psychological complexes, and once you understand those, then you actually have to start attending to them. So if there's a belief that you're going to get a magical key that's going to, you circulate life force through the spine, and the years are going to go by, and you're not going to do any inner work, and you're just going to be peaceful and perfect. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
What it does is it calms you down and gives you the capacity to actually attend to it. You know, Sri Yukteswar, he has a great saying, I forget where I read it, but he said, if you think you're going to get initiated into Kriya, and all of a sudden a chariot's going to come down out of the sky and carry you away, he's like, that's not the way it is.
Because people think you can get third eye opening and Kundalini Awakening with Kriya Yoga. Is that?
Well, it depends on whether you believe in that or not.
So it's more like a placebo effect then for the Kundalini?
Oh, no. What I meant was, when I say believe in it, like when people talk about Kundalini Awakening, I ask them first, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Because you can have your Kundalini awakened, and you're more peaceful and calm, and you perceive things better. And that's when I consider your Kundalini is more awakened. But if they think the Kundalini is awakened, mean they're going to see lights and, angels and that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's what...
Yeah, that's all just kind of fantasy. When you've got your spiritual eye opened, you're in tune with what's going on around you, which means when you're sitting here and you see that pomegranate tree and you see the mountain, you're not saying, God, come at me in a blaze of light again. You see it in the sunlight off the mountain. So it's like the person who has all that stuff awakened, they don't need the fantasy of all these crazy ass things. What they need, or not what they need, what they see is just how beautiful this actually is, that we're actually here.
So even you saw something malevolent or negative, you will still see God in that with that awakening.
You will still see it in that, but you may also still deal with it as though it's something like, just because you're awakened doesn't mean you want to go drink Clorox or bleach.
Yeah.
That's
what people think, that if your Kundalini is awakened, nothing is going to snake and bite you, you will not die. Bullets can come at you.
Right. Yeah. Well, we can try it and see, but that hasn't been my
Don't try it at home, kids.
Yeah. And this interview does not reflect your beliefs, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I remember yesterday at the restaurant, we were talking about Sri Yukteswar version of the Bhagavad Gita and how it was relating to astrology, how some of the craziest stuff he talks about the planets.
That's where we get the idea of the Zodiac aligned with the spine, right? So he talks about how the Zodiac is the spine, and then he goes on to talk about that, every year that you live, it's because the sun is moving through the Zodiac. So between now and next year, the sun will move through all of the Zodiac.
All the Zodiac.
And if you live, again, as healthy, a peaceful, happy life as you can, potentially, dealing with the problems as they come, then you evolve a little bit, right? And so he goes on to say that by living well and attending to these practices, that you're accelerating that process. So if you do, like I said, 12 or 24 Kriyas, and you do them well, that has the effect of moving you through 12 years of normal living. Which is why they say that if you practice Kriya correctly, you can wake up in this lifetime. Because the idea that he puts out is that if a human being could live 1,000,000 years, perfectly happy, healthy, good food, dealing with their problems whenever they arise, 1,000,000 years, that person would just naturally wake up. Okay, so the idea is if you do 1,000,000 Kriyas well in your lifetime, which only takes, I calculated it maybe like, 12 or 17 years, something like that. But if you do it...
1,000,000 Kriyas and only 17...
Yeah.
I guess it's with the breath,
It's with the breath, yeah. So if you do it in that regard, well, 20 years go by, you're at least going to be a little bit calmer, clearer person, which is much better than if you didn't do anything like that.
But can you get an acceleration process in there where, like, I want to get to that point within a year of Kriya practice or 2 years? Does that happen to people?
It might, but the other thing you got to remember is that, like, for example, people like Ramana Maharshi, they just have an experience when they're awake.
Yeah.
So you can look at it this way, that each lifetime...
Plus, depending on how many lifetimes you've lived.
Yes,
so
exactly.
You could be at the 1,000,000th.
Right. So that's why some people, they'll say, well, why should I even start if I'm not going to get, in three lifetimes? And you say, well, you could get it in 3 lifetimes, or you could not do it at all and get it in 70.
70, yeah.
Or maybe this is the lifetime where you're just finishing up those final 50,000, and maybe you experience clarity within 5 years or 2 years or 1 year. It just depends. No one starts typically at the same spot, and you can't judge that. And there's no way to judge that.
So regarding the spine, is he talking about like all the vertebrae or the nakshatras, or why the spine? Why is it related to Zodiac?
Because the spine is that center of your life force and your energy, of who you are, of what you think, and that's where all of your traumas, where all your memories are all stored within those chakras, like energetically, if you think about it like that. It's like an imprint. And so whenever you feel, that's why when you feel a certain thing, you feel it in a certain place. When someone feels grief, where do they typically feel it?
Heart.
They feel it in the heart, which is where Saturn and they have to move
Oh,
through
my heart
Saturn.
just gave out when I saw that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and so if you think about it that way, if you can understand that, then by pulling your attention, your awareness through these areas, you become aware of what's there, and that's again why. Okay, we got to go back just a little bit here. A lot of people get involved in meditation and spirituality because they're in pain and they're unhappy.
Yeah.
And they're thinking that yoga and meditation are going to heal them.
Heal them.
And yoga and meditation was never meant to be a healing practice. It was meant for people who were already fairly
happy and
balanced. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be perfect. But I mean, an adult, basically. Do you know what I mean? Like an emotional adult.
You can handle your emotion.
Right, because when you go through the process, you're going to become aware of things. Just like when you go through therapy or something.
So meditation yoga was to be aware, not to cure some depression.
Exactly, because as soon as you become aware of the truth of the matter, it typically ceases to bother you, which means that then you can exist in the world at peace with the world. All right, so I don't have a belief that doing Kriya or any kind of spiritual practice is going to make the world heaven on earth. I don't think it's going to make my life heaven on earth. But what it does is it reveals to me just how beautiful
where you are.
Exactly.
Pretty much. That's it.
And that's beautiful. I mean, really, when you finally see it, it's a really neat thing.
Now, people also want to know: is there heaven and hell?
Right.
Does Kriya practice, and when you reach that millionth breath, do you understand that if there is such a thing, if what is real, what is not?
Well, and, you know, they talk about this a lot in there's a book, Vasistha's Yoga, that I like, and they say essentially that whatever you perceive of in your mind is what you're going to experience. So people who have the idea that I'm going to hell or there is a hell, when they die, they've created that world,
that projection of that world,
and they're going to experience it. And the idea with Kriya is that as you become clearer, you start to see that your mind is what's creating your experience.
All the illusions.
Yeah. So if you're kind of clear right now, then when you die, if you know that you're not your body, and that's why even in Kriya Yoga they recommend learning how to stay conscious while you sleep, because then you learn to stay conscious in between changes of states. Just like when you die, that's just a change of a state.
That's right, because when we are asleep, we're not in control in a way.
Exactly.
And we're seeing things and we just don't know how to control it.
Exactly. And so you learn to do this not to prevent heaven or prevent hell and create heaven. It's so that you start to see how powerful your mind is to create that. Because think about it, everyone in this world is almost always in hell. Because why? Their mind is making them unhappy, they're anxious, they're worried about this, they're sad about that. This happened to me when I was 3. That's hell. And that's why when you die, like in your birth chart, if I would die right now and I come back tomorrow, whatever kind of progress, if you want to call it that, I've made in this time period, my birth chart will reflect that when I come back. So your state of consciousness, what you have right now, is what sticks with you. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No. It shows you, the chart shows your progression in life.
Exactly.
So, and now, is there one thing, one technique that you see in a chart to see how much the person has progressed? Or it's like an overall study thing? Yeah,
you got to look at the whole chart for that. And oftentimes you really do have to talk to the person, because what you experience in your life, that's reflected in your chart. But that consciousness, which is the awakened consciousness, if you want to call it that, is not bound by your chart. So you can see someone with a terrible chart, but they might be the most awake person in the world. You can see someone with a beautiful chart, they might be the most unconscious person in the world. So that's why with that it can give you some insights, but you really have to talk to the person. So
it's not like you see a moon, nakshatra, and a pada, you're like, this is the point you're at in your spiritual progression.
No. I mean, some people might say you can do that, but my experience has been that. So think about this, like in the Agamas, it talks about how the sage, you cannot recognize a sage by his actions.
Okay.
Because that person could be living any kind of life. Just like in Vasistha's Yoga, it says a demon can be enlightened, a god can be enlightened, a person can be enlightened, a worm can be enlightened. Because that's just the body that this consciousness is working through. Okay. So a sage is someone who just knows what they are and they're playing their role in this world. And this is always the hard thing.
So a sage could be a murderer.
It could be. We don't know that.
Really?
I mean, that's the
if you
theory.
Have progressed
that's the theory.
In life, though,
well,
why would you want to kill? Why would you want to rob and rape?
Well, think about those stories. I mean, that's a good question. But think about those stories where they talk about, the sage who was sitting in the grass and someone comes by and he kills them, and then you find out through the story that the person he killed was going to like murder 30,000 other people.
Okay.
So the reason this is so hard is because our human minds cannot understand the bigger picture. We cannot,
because whoever's committing those murder, maybe those people had it coming.
You can,
kind of like,
exactly.
Kind of like who's that, Dexter?
It could be.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a philosophically hard point to be in.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, then people start saying I can do whatever the hell I want.
Yeah, that's right too.
And that's
I'll just kill them, or I'll rape that girl, and this and that, and that's.
But think about it this way: if someone says, "I'm going to hurt you," and that means I'm helping you with your karma. Well, imagine if the person who said I'm going to hurt you and help you with their karma instead said, "No, I'm going to help you with your karma by not hurting you. I'm not going to deliver that to you. We're going to work together so that this doesn't have to happen." So my thought is the clearer a person typically gets, they might do something that's hurtful to another, not intentionally, I don't think, but they then develop the capacity to say, by me being kind to you is actually canceling out that karma. So like kindness is a very important thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Right.
But yeah, that's the hard part.
Now, if somebody who's watching this saying, do I need to have a guru? Do I need to go somewhere to a meditation center to do the Kriya practice, or is this something simple that I can do just right now, starting to progress myself?
Well, just any kind of meditation, I'm not talking about Kriya, just any kind of meditation where you can start to train yourself to sit still and be calm. That's the first thing. Do you need to go to a group? Do you need to go to get a guru? My thought is, if you need training, then yes.
To be still.
Yeah. If you need someone to train you, to say, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
But not because you're thinking that person's going to open up the doors.
Yeah.
And meditation groups are tricky because most people go to meditation groups for the same reason they go to church. To be in a community, not to learn how to meditate.
Yeah.
So again, it depends on what kind of group we're talking about, or why you're going. So I think it can be helpful, but on my Kriya Yoga Online channel, I've got a whole course on there that talks about, it's a 15-hour course that talks about how to get into this. And it's just the simple practices. And when people write to me and they say, will you teach me? I say, look, I've got hundreds of videos on this channel. If you pay attention to the simple things on there, you'll get it. But the thing is, there's no bells and whistles. Yeah. There's no magic.
You're like, okay, you're coming to Ryan within one session, I'll be enlightened.
Right.
And what is that website that they can get?
Well, it's the youtube.com/Kriya Yoga Online.
Kriya Yoga Online.
Yeah.
Also, it's not your other YouTube channel like Ryan Kurczak.
No, that's just my astrology.
Astrology.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got a separate one. For
I gotta check that out. So
there's hundreds of videos on there.
Okay, what is it again?
youtube.com/Kriya Yoga Online.
Okay, online. Okay. Yeah. So Ryan, I think it's time for us to go party again. 5:30. So yes, we're gonna go back and party and be enlightened in the
exactly with the kids and
at the bar and the restaurant. So anyway, guys, thank you very much. Good time, and hopefully you learned something new. He has a channel. Remember, Ryan Kurczak, Astral Astrology,
Astral Vedic Astrology,
and then the Kriya Yoga Online.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right. See you guys. Thank you.